Hello, this is Father Louis SCURTI with Sister Collette. Sister Collette is novice mistress here at the poor Clares Monastery in Galway, Ireland. And each segment we're going deeper into the life of the sisters. And of course the inspiration besides Jesus, of course, is St. Francis. So we're going to begin this segment with looking at St. Francis and St. Clare and what their carols and their callings were and how they have inspired subsequent people through the centuries since the 1300s. Sister, thank you very much for being part of these segments. Let's start with St. Francis and St. Clare. Tell me all about the inspiration that came from them.
Okay, it just struck me when you were talking about escaping, the importance of our humanity. For St. Francis and St. Clare, the incarnation was the central theme, the central attraction for them. Jesus was the centre of their lives, and St. Clare would say that Jesus Christ came for us the way. So he, in his person, in his humanity, is the way for us to touch the divinity of God. You can't see the face of God, but you can see the face of Jesus is the face of God. Right. And so for Franciscans, the three, I suppose, big devotions would be the Crave, the Cross, and the Eucharist. So each of them, which demonstrated the fragility of Jesus as a baby. He had to have everything done for him. Right. His complete vulnerability on the cross, the same thing. He was totally helpless and in deep pain, and allowed himself to enter fully into what it meant to be as a human in that situation. And then in the Eucharist, this is perpetuated. He's totally vulnerable in the Eucharist. And our spirituality is not getting away from the world in that sense. It's being in touch with the reality of our humanity and the humanity of those we live with and the humanity of those who call looking for prayers. And so with St. Francis and St. Clare, they both would look at their brothers and sisters as a gift. St. Francis would say, the Lord gave me brothers. St. Clare said, the Lord gave me sisters. Each one was a gift. And with each one that came to Francis, certainly of the first few, the order expanded so quickly, but the first few, with each person that came to him, he sat them down and discerned with them, was this his calling? And it was only after he had a few of them that he realised they all had the same calling as himself. And then when he had 12, he went to Rome to get approval. But each one, he didn't assume that each one had the same calling. So each person was a gift, and each person was unique. And I think that's very central to our way of life.
Spirituality. You realize what Sister is doing without saying she's preaching. She is preaching, but she's also teaching and also opening up her own life to you and me. I think it was St. Francis who even said we should all preach and some of us should use words. Well, Sister's using words, and she's exposing us to your inner spirituality. You're sharing, I'm honored to be here, but the education I'm receiving, but the spiritual message I'm receiving is far deeper. And this is what goes on beyond the walls.
Yes, but it goes on beyond the walls in the reality of our lives, which are very ordinary. It's a very simple way of life. But we experience the same, I suppose, challenges with our personalities, our weaknesses, our sensitivities, and working through all that and working through that with the Lord. In bringing our own humanity to the Lord, we're bringing the humanity of all of humanity, the brokenness that's out there.
It must be a deep connection you have individually and as a community with Jesus, though.
Yeah. And with each other as well, because we live very closely together.
Right. Yesterday, again, I was planning to come here, and I met with Sister Anne early in the morning, and then went back to the family and says, "Oh, tomorrow we're going to have mass there." And they said, "Oh, we'll come." So that's why Breeder and Delia and Tom came today, and we got a little conversation going, and they said, how could they live that way? Because Anne is newly interested.
Yes.
What would her status be?
She's a postulant.
Postulant, she's
so she's been
interested.
with us for 9 months.
Okay, and they know her. She grew up with them. How could she live that way? I says, well, there's a contentment that she's searching for, and that the sisters have, and of course, Deirdre is a mother of 5 kids and 20 grandchildren. It didn't fit. It didn't fit. But that vocation of being a mother and grandmother is as valid a vocation as yours, as being a sister.
Very much, and much more challenging.
Well, I don't know. I mean, they think this is challenging.
But it's whatever your calling
Exactly.
is. You know, if there's a fit, if it feels right, and I can remember we have, you know, if the person is discerning, there's an opportunity for people that are seriously discerning to do a 2-week live-in.
Okay, that's good. I'm glad you're doing that. Give us that whole outline.
But when Anne did it, just as you're mentioning, Anne, I remember asking her at the end, like, you know, what did it, you're like, you know, how did it go for her? Did it mean a lot, or what? I can't remember how I put it. She said, but I remember her saying it meant an awful lot, and I think it was just, you know, a fit. You know, when you before you come in, you're wondering, and that was what I was trying to say earlier about making actual contact and coming to the place.
Yes.
The place is one part of it, but actually talking to somebody. There's so much going around in your head, and you've so many ideas, preconceived ideas, fears, worries, and some of the ideas might be totally, you know, off the wall. Or, but so the reality of actually talking to somebody, first of all, it concretizes it in your own mind, because until then, it's a fantasy in a way. A fantasy might be too strong of a word, but you know what I'm trying to say, that it's not real.
Right.
But once you actually speak to somebody about it, you've actually said, oh my goodness, I've actually said it. And that's important. And also in speaking, it helps you to sort out all that's going on in your head. And the reality then also of establishing relationship and that. And I think for people nowadays, commitment in any way is very difficult. The world nowadays is not geared towards that in any way. There's no such thing as a permanent job, or unless you become a
Exactly.
And so it's frightening. But then if you come and talk to somebody, it can dispel some of that.
Yes.
And then as you continue to discern, if it's just not going away, there's the possibility for the 2-week live-in. And that usually is very helpful, because you can kind of say, yeah, you know, I think it definitely is, you know, what the Lord wants, or, you know, no, I don't think so. And that's freeing as well, because you can just cross that off the list.
Yes.
So that's another stage. And then when a person decides to enter their postulant, the postulancy would be at least a year. It could be a bit longer. It can be longer. It can be up to 2 years. And then
they choose, the individual chooses, or does the
it's discerning.
vocation?
Yeah,
Okay.
some people are ready, because for the first year as a postulant, you're wearing your own clothes.
Yes.
And so it's a big step then to become a novice, because you get the habit and a white veil. But that is a big step, you know, because we identify, especially as women, but I think everybody identifies with who they are as a person and the way they look. It's just part of, and you know, getting the habit. Suddenly you don't have hair that's visible, and like that's so much part of who we are as women, and yet we don't lose our femininity or our womanhood. It blossoms and grows as well, but integrating all of that is you know, takes a bit of time. So it's important to discern each step of the way. So the novice, you'd be at least 2 years a novice. This possibility could be extended as well by 6 months, I think. And then you make first vows. So you make the 4 vows for 3 years.
Oh.
And then after 3 years, you can make them for life.
Oh, I see. So you make the first vows, poverty, chastity, obedience, and enclosure. And then that goes on for a year?
No, you don't take the vows until first profession.
Okay.
When you'd be here at least 3 years, but you could be here longer.
By then, okay.
And then at that stage, you take them for 3 years.
That's great. And then for life.
and then for life. Yeah.
That's great. A great experience.
Yeah.
And how many sisters have come through since you're here?
Oh gosh, a lot, and a lot have come and have left as well, because it's a huge step for me. To actually enter is a huge thing, and it takes great courage. But it takes courage to leave as well if you feel that it's not for you. Now, that's not to say that it wasn't God's will that they came, because those that have left, we would still have contact with them. We live as a family, we are a family, and so they're still very much part of our lives. They had a part in shaping us to who we have become, and likewise they have as well. And you know, they've all gone on to do wonderful things in the church and in married life or single life. I can think of several, and they're really working for the Lord on side. But this was part of their journey. Sure. And it was part of my journey to have journeyed with them too.
Interface with them, absolutely. And when the sisters are here, not only you individually, do you have responsibilities around for maintenance? Let's go with that, or cooking?
So we have elections every 3 years.
Okay.
So you were asking earlier about the structure. Mother Abbess is the superior, and so she's elected by the sisters every 3 years.
Okay.
And then she has a council with her. So the next person would be the vicaress, and then there's 3 other sisters, and that's the council. So that's to support Mother Abbess in what you're talking about, maintenance and things that have to be done, decisions that have to be made. And then there's the wider community. And because really the structure is a family, we live very much as a family. So we would have the, I suppose, custom or tradition of discussing issues together.
Oh, okay.
And then it's rarely that she just needs to get the council, because we've discussed it in community. But there are some things that she needs the permission of the council to do. So to get back to your question, do they have different roles? Their roles will be appointed then after the elections, when you know who's been elected for what. So we'd have sisters that would look after the cooking. We all have to do housework. Bursar, novice mistress, infirmarian, archives, all these things are appointed then. So we do them for 3 years.
So it's a full society.
Yeah.
A full functioning society. And it happens
There's a lot to be done.
Yeah, absolutely. The interface with the community, the lay community outside, that's visitors, volunteers, any other interfacing with them? I know the large community came to Mass this morning.
Yes, and you kind of get to know the people that have to come to Mass, even though we're not talking to them unless they happen to come to the grill. Well, we also interact in a certain way on the internet. We have a Facebook page which is very popular.
And what is your Facebook address?
Well, our Facebook address is Poor Clares Galway. Facebook.com / Poor Clares Galway.
And your site?
And our site is poorclares.ie.
.ie, that's .ie
for Ireland. Yeah.
Okay.
And we have a channel on YouTube, I think, as well. So we have little video clips on YouTube as well. We're more there than on our website. And so we're very fortunate. There's a guy who looks after our Facebook page for us.
Great.
And he puts up some stuff for us, and then if we have events on in the community, we'll send him the photos and that kind of thing, and he'll do it. So it's great because we don't have a huge lot to do with it. He covers it on a day-to-day basis. Excellent. And he's doing a great job.
Exposure to television, secular newspapers, magazines?
Well, we have a television which we use mainly for formation purposes, you know, DVDs and that kind of thing. There's a lot of great resources out there. Other than that, we can watch television at Christmas and Easter. We take the 12 days of Christmas. It's actually 13 days.
That's great.
Including Christmas Day, evening. And also the octave of Easter. It's like, I suppose, more relaxed holiday time for the sisters. We don't have visitors during Lent or November, December. So our family would come to visit at Christmas, and we also meet other sisters' families at Christmas. So those days are more relaxed, though the prayer structure goes on all the time. So we can watch television, or we can watch anything we like, or movies at Christmas and Easter. Other than that, we don't really watch the news or the television unless there was something particular happening.
Right.
You know, when the Pope comes for the
election of the Pope.
Yeah. Oh yes. Yeah. That was amazing.
The typical structure of the day. What is that like?
Okay, I'm not going to bore you all with that because it's very, very structured. But it's a balanced way of life, and it's balanced between prayer, obviously first, work, recreation, and time for community. And so the prayer is interspersed throughout the day, and then the others weave in and out through the foundation is prayer, and then everything else, because it's important to break that up as well, because it's hard to pray for very long stretches.
Sure.
But the work we do is very conducive to prayer. You know, we wouldn't have very the work like housework and gardening and all that kind of thing is conducive to being you know, in communion with the Lord. So we get up about 5:15 in the morning, and we expose the Blessed Sacrament then, and we have the Divine Office, which is the prayer of the Church, Psalms and Scriptures, 7 times a day, interspersed throughout. And the adoration goes on all day. Each sister has her own time at adoration. And so we do the work and community stuff and all that in between. And we have night prayer about maybe 20 to 8 in the evening. And then people are free to, some people go straight into bed and others just potter around. And then we get up to pray in the middle of the night as well.
Oh.
So we get up for an hour, and it happens every night, but it's on a rota basis, so we're not all up every night, but we take turns.
Right.
So we
It was
get up for an
interesting.
hour.
When we came the other day, the sister who greeted us, we were looking for Anne, and she said she's in adoration, but I'll go take her place.
Okay.
I thought that was so thoughtful. I mean, because we're from the United States, we're visiting someone, you know, we're here for a few days, and just covering each other.
Yeah, well, we wouldn't ever leave the Lord
No,
unattended.
of course. Right.
So somebody would so it's lovely. We're privileged to have Blessed Sacrament exposed every day. It's wonderful.
Great. The structure, I took pictures the other day inside the chapel. There's the door that opens, it so it allows the outsiders to see the sisters. Above it, there's a golden box.
That's where we have the monstrance.
Oh, I see. That when the Eucharist is exposed, the sisters see it. But
Yeah, so we have on our side, we have the same golden doors, and
Right.
we open them in the morning.
Okay.
And if we wanted to have, if we were having a day where there was the public were sharing with the adoration, we can open it on the other side as well.
Great. I hope we have left you with a lot of questions, because I want you, our visitors, our guests, our audience, to go online and research the Poor Clares here at Galway.
And you'll get all the answers on our website.
Yeah, all the answers will be there. And maybe you make a visit here and you could meet with one of the sisters, or at a Poor Clare convent, monastery, wherever you are throughout the world. And thank God for the World Wide Web. It's such a gift for communication and evangelization. I am overwhelmingly grateful to you, sister. I really, really appreciate your hospitality, breakfast, mass, and these wonderful interviews you've had. Anything else you'd like to say to our audience?
Gosh, well, we'll keep you in our prayers. St. Clare is the patron of television, would you believe? I mean,
Great.
Considering she was back there in the 1950s, Pope Pius made her patron of television because she was confined to her sickbed for many years, and she was very much wanted to be part of the ceremonies in St. Francis Basilica. Couldn't go, but when the sister, when it was over, she was able to describe exactly what happened. So she was sort of, it was like a television screen, but she was able to see it all. And so for that reason, he made her patron of television. So we feel very much that we should be praying for those involved with social media of all kinds.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. God bless you. I really, really am grateful for these interviews, sister. Thank you very much.
Okay.
I don't know if that was appropriate. Maybe
It's okay. God bless you all too.
Thank you, and God bless you, and keep the word alive and well. Let's hear from you. Father LOUIE at hotmail.com, and we're going to have the bylines of the sisters' various internet sites and their YouTube page. God bless you. Pass this on to your family and friends, and let's hear from you.
Clares here on Nun'S Island. There is a retreat going on, so people are at lunch after their retreat mass this morning. But this chapel is so beautiful. It's peaceful, calm, and shows all of the history of the Franciscans, including images of St. Francis of Assisi and, of course, St. Clare. The cathedral is 60 years old, and you can see the cathedral when you leave this beautiful chapel. The altar is beautiful stone, as well as the cathedral. Beautiful stone from the local area. This has been Father Louis SCURTI at the Poor Clares Convent in Galway.